Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where we read surprisingly interesting stories that usually don't end in a cliffhanger. If you are new to my channel, please feel free to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right in. And the first one is actually gonna be a part of a longer series, so be sure to stick until the end for a satisfying ending. It is titled Texas Live/Work in Shelter. Coworker has dangerously unsafe food handling habits. MGMT, aware but dragging feet. Constructive dismissal? So he's doing the following: frequently thawing raw chicken, hamburger, fish in sink overnight in very warm kitchen upwards of 16 hours, then does not check cooked products with thermometer to ensure internal temp has risen high enough to kill the critters that have multiplied in such a welcoming environment. Moreover, he saves used grease and frying oil in non-airtight, not even refrigerated coffee cans and reuses the often rancid results for frying and or making gravy with. He also stores tiny portions of leftover meals, which are not kept at safe hot/cold temperatures during the hour a mealtime is served, for weeks on end, and then may or may not use them. Note that this is done despite a warning posted on our staging refrigerator not to store leftovers, and the staging refrigerator is supposed to be used for thawing and storing thawed meat. But we don't have room to use it for the meats mentioned in the first bullet point because of these useless leftovers. Also, he will not use scoops with handles in dry goods, rice flour, sugar. Instead, he uses measuring cups. The scoops are required by the health department to avoid having the part of the measuring utensil that has been handled drop back into the dry good. When I asked him to keep using the scoop, he said, "Why? The health department won't be back for another year." So much more. My immediate, now ex-boss, and his boss have been made aware of the conditions multiple times over this past year, verbally, with kitchen tours where conditions are pointed out, and after finding out that Texas is a one-party consent state, with an audio recording at an employee evaluation where I repeated much of this and disavowed their previous request that I clean up/cover for this cook for fear of inferred liability. All of the above is documented by photos and video. They promised to send him to get food handling certification and presumably a higher awareness of just how easily food can become contaminated, as well as talk to him about his current practices, but the last promise was almost 5 months ago now and nothing has come of it again. I live and work here. I'm terrified that these elderly and or immune compromised clients are going to get hit by serious food poisoning, and that I will be included in the following lawsuits even if I show I exerted all due diligence I could to address the situation. The health department is softballing their inspections, the board of directors and corporate tours through the kitchen are brief and gloss over the filthy conditions, and I'm afraid if I go to social media on this, I will lose my job, my place to live, and become a pariah in this town for daring to protest this "they, the homeless, should just be grateful for what they get," an apparent "nothing's happened yet, so nothing will happen" mentality. This is a part-time $7.65 per hour job. I need to get out of here, but at nearly 53 years old, I don't face homelessness fearlessly. I'm hoping I can quit, but claim constructive dismissal for unemployment purposes. I don't know where I will stay, as this is the only men's shelter in the area, but I will figure that out, and whether I should go to the social media route later after I have some income, small as it is, from unemployment. Legal aid tells me I have some whistleblower protection, but that is an after-the-fact consolation. They can and will fire me and kick me out in the meantime. I have never been in such a moral dilemma in my life. It really seems the only way this person will be addressed is to publicize the conditions. But that leads to the very real risk of shutting down the kitchen and possibly even the shelter for other reasons. How would you all advise I proceed? A person in the comments said, "It sounds like the board of directors and corporate are not fully aware of the situation. Maybe you should try moving up the management chain. You have given lower management every opportunity to remedy." Another person said, from a more practical standpoint, if you get fired and kicked out from the shelter, do you have anywhere, literally anywhere to go? Any distant friends, acquaintances, churches, secular community organizations, etc. who could take you in on a strictly temporary basis? If at all possible, try and have something lined up first. Then I would go above the head of whoever is inspecting from the health department. Get to the department head. If that does not work, go to your county supervisors, aldermen, councilmen, not sure what they are called in Texas, raise it in a public comment at the next public meeting if need be. Be sure to bring the pictures, preferably in print, with you so you can pass them on to the supervisors. Alternatively, you can try the media. Local TV or newspapers will probably bite on this story. If you happen to work with a good journalist on this, you may even be able to remain anonymous. Although it does not prevent your boss putting 2 and 2 together and figuring out it was you who complained. Another option may be your local ACLU chapter, who may or may not be willing/able to assist. As you said, this is the only men's shelter in your area. If all homeless males are subjected to this in order to get shelter, but if, say, homeless women are not, that could possibly be a basis for a disparate impact suit against the health department. Again, if there are women's shelters nearby with better sanitation. There are a lot of factors, and I am not a lawyer, so I cannot really give you good analysis here, but this may be another option for you. The downside of all this is that you will likely get fired. It is unfair and it should never happen to anyone in your situation. It is even more unfair that this is your only living option right now. On the other hand, you may be able to impart positive change, even if it means shutting the shelter down and starting from the ground up with a new facility. And guys, I'm curious, what would you do in this situation? Would you become the so-called whistleblower? Even though you might become homeless afterwards and have nowhere to go? Let us know in the comments, and I'm also curious, what do you think, or rather, what is your opinion about whistleblowers in general? Could they be considered traitors, or are they doing their country a great service? Let us know your opinion in the comments. And the next one is an update to the homeless shelter story. I am pulling the trigger. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get fired and end up on the street, but even if they don't fire me, which would be smart on their part, I will probably quit anyway and try filing for what little unemployment I could qualify for under constructive dismissal. By the way, nobody really answered about the chances on that in my last post. But hey, maybe I will finally see some action taken. Here's the complaint email sent to the local health department. Please be advised that there are numerous apparent health code violations in the major charitable organizations' kitchen and shelter facilities. Also, please be advised that I am an employee of the facility and have heavily documented said apparent violations. The following links are only a sample of these apparent violations over the past year. I suggest viewing them with a computer instead of a cell phone, as there are descriptions attached to most of these photos that may not show up on mobile. So here are the pictures, and as you can see, it's pretty disgusting. The kitchen is particularly troubling, as many of the above linked conditions and others not shown were readily apparent during your last inspection, yet we were only cited for relatively minor violations. For example, needing towel/soap dispensers, new food thermometers, scoops to replace measuring cups for dispensing dry goods, and an out-of-code jar of peanut butter. Ignored were many mouse droppings, large visible mouse nest, dead mouse under refrigerator, old grease built up on many surfaces, undefrosted freezers, unlabeled foods, no first aid kit, and much more. Some of these conditions were addressed proactively, but many of them have returned, with other issues never addressed. I'm afraid the organization is taking advantage of your department's probable reluctance to enforce the code as strictly as you should, presumably to avoid shutting down the kitchen, but there are alternate places the clients can eat during the week. The bedbug pictures linked above only touch on one room. They have risen to the level of infestation in the common dorm. Unfortunately, due to management inaction and your department's apparent unwillingness to force this facility to follow the law, and particularly because the homeless tend to be comprised of a much larger than normal group of immune-compromised individuals, drug users/elderly, and hence at a higher risk of infections/poisoning than the general populace, I feel forced to publicize these photos and videos through all local media and social media at a soon-to-be determined date if I do not see a rapid and full reaction. I've been trying to get these conditions addressed for nearly a year now, and I believe it's up to your department to force the organization into action rather than them worrying about a new shelter that is 2 years away from being built, or that the retail store is getting a cosmetic facelift. The homeless are people too, and while yes, they are grateful for what they receive, they should not be at a constant elevated risk of food poisoning and or side effects of multiple bedbug bites. I believe this strongly enough to not report this anonymously, running the risk of being fired and becoming homeless myself. I work and live here, not to mention probably becoming unemployable in the area for whistleblowing on a normally well-respected charity organization. I am notifying the shelter's commander of this email as soon as I see him today. If you have questions, please email me or call me. And a user in the comments said, "Don't quit, that would make you ineligible for unemployment." The only way in which this could be construed as constructive dismissal is if they told you to do something that is actually illegal or quit. Just being gross is not sufficient. Third, if they actually do fire you, you will have a strong claim of reprisal for filing a legal report, which is absolutely actionable. Not big payday actionable, but keep a roof over your head while you find another job actionable. Fourth, you have no personal legal liability if you did not do anything wrong. And the other employee would likely be covered by the employment scenario as well. This is one of the few situations in which going to the media, if the inspectors don't pick this up, might be a good idea. Sixth, the Salvation Army has serious issues and I'm sorry you have to deal with them. Oh, because they are religious, I don't know what the situation is with respect to unemployment. I know that a lot of religious employers are exempt. Do you know if you've been paying into the system? And guys, I'm curious, have you ever heard about any charity organizations in your area that have done questionable things like the ones mentioned in this story? Let us know in the comments. And by the way, is it just me or is the OP some kind of superhero? Honestly, if you ask me, we need more people like him in the world. This guy is pretty much sacrificing his job, or rather his normal life, to improve the situation of others. Next one is another update to the shelter story. Pyrrhic victory, as I knew it would be. And by the way, I looked that word up in the dictionary. Anyway, reported to health department, they showed up 3 days later and softballed the inspection again. However, as seen by the pic, at least MGT finally got moving on getting the kitchen cleaned up. And guys, as you can see on the picture, apparently by softballing he means that the inspection only brought up small minor things and nothing major, once again. Anyway, if I had not been in the very unusual position of having 3 client volunteers willing to pitch in and help, I would have told the big boss to pound sand, since he was aware of the conditions for years and had allowed them to stay that way, and I had already advised him to get community service volunteers in to do the cleanup 6 months previously, but he chose to use them to help in the office with paperwork filing instead. Anyway, so the kitchen is cleaner, great, still did not address the co-workers' habits. Approached my immediate boss for help in having a sit down with the big boss and the co-worker, and why, and her first response is to accuse me of over-relying on the volunteers. Not concerned that there was an ongoing health hazard going on. Puzzling behavior, but explained in a bit. So I get the big boss and the co-worker in a sit down, explain to co-worker in presence of big boss that some of his habits were unacceptable and that I waited almost a year for them to be addressed by MGT. And I guess MGT is management, please correct me if I'm wrong. In addition to my own attempts at addressing them with the co-worker directly. Also that I was sorry, but I was willing to have the kitchen/shelter shut down rather than see those habits continued. Big boss tells coworker to stop those habits, they have decreased but still to this day continue when he thinks he can get away with them. Big boss tells me that my job is not threatened, but that he is aware it was me that reported them. I shrugged since I had clearly told the health department who I was and how to contact me. So, habits are going to continue and there's nothing else I can do about them. Management knows that they happen, will continue to ignore them. Oh well. What was my immediate boss's reaction about this? According to a couple of my client volunteers who witnessed the conversations firsthand, it turns out she had already been talking with the coworker and assured him that she had the coworker's back and that anything the coworker chose to complain about regarding me would be corroborated and acted upon immediately regardless of the truth of those complaints. So yes, retaliations have begun, was told to return to my bedbug infested room instead of sleeping out in the dining room as I had been since August. I refused, told I was over relying on those aforementioned volunteers and that I was always on the computer, implying I am not doing my job. I had no volunteers for over a year and got by fine. While my coworker has had a series of semi-permanent volunteers and still has timeline issues, but that was not relevant apparently. I am on my computer, which is in the kitchen in a work cubby. I'm not staying in my room for anything until the bedbugs are addressed. Off shift all the time, and that is the only time my boss has ever seen me on it. She has not yet once been in the kitchen while I've been working in the 2 months or so she has been here. Other incidents as well, all of them cropping up only after I got the health department in. So, I'm done. The bedbugs are allegedly going to be addressed shortly. They'd better be, as they have gotten very bad and are really tearing some people up. My main goals were to get the coworkers' habits addressed, the kitchen cleaned up and the bedbugs addressed for the sake of the health and safety of our clients. I've done all I can do. I'm setting up a recurring Google search for this facility and references to food poisoning. If there is a hit, I'm contacting the affected person or people with all the documentation I have showing the facility has been aware of the issue for a while and chose not to actively address it. I'm getting ready to hit the road, hitchhiking by necessity to destination unknown at this time. Seattle seems attractive. I am a self-taught computer technician, have been for the last almost 30 years, and I really miss the work after this year's relapse into my old cooking skills. Not sure what the future is going to bring, but I'm satisfied I've at least begun changes at a facility that has unfortunately settled into complacency and been counting over ensuring the client's needs are met in a safe, legal manner. The main thing that pissed me off was that there really was not much money involved. $50 per room for bedbug treatment is a hell of a deal. There were only 4 rooms to treat and could have been done every 3 months. And at least reduce them to raiding parties instead of invading battalions. The cleanup of the kitchen could have been handled at any time with no cost labor, community service volunteers. It took me figuratively blackmailing the health department after a year of inaction for these things to happen. It is done, I am done. Anyone need a computer tech with modest wage needs? Will travel anywhere at the moment, even have my passport. Edit too long didn't read. I reported the facility to health department, kitchen got cleaned, coworker spoken to but continues his habits occasionally, bedbugs allegedly will be addressed but not holding my breath. Retaliatory actions have begun, not worth my time to deal with them anymore. Will try to monitor the situation via Google searches and insider information. I am about to hit the road and hitchhike who knows where in search of the computer work I've been doing for 30 years. Conditionally satisfied that I've done all I can do for my clients for now. A person in the comments said, I'm not a lawyer, but I am a food safety expert. The person with the poor food handling habits should be fired. If they even continue with some of their poor practices in the kitchen, then at some point down the road, your kitchen is going to kill someone. It is a numbers game, it always is when food pathogens are involved. At some point the odds will intersect and an immune-compromised person in your facility will ingest listeria or salmonella, and instead of simply having a gastrointestinal illness, they will get so sick they will die. It is not a question of if, it's a question of when. I know you already said I'm outta here, but I'm posting this here so anyone who works in food service can read it and gets an expert's perspective on how these situations play out. And guys, honestly, I have to ask myself, what the hell does this organization gain by not cleaning up the kitchen, not getting rid of the bedbugs, etc.? SOP said they are not really saving money by doing this. In the long run, they maybe have some lawsuits coming their way, so why don't they just clean up the place? I really don't get it. And another update to the shelter story. By the way guys, please let me know in the comments if you enjoy these super long stories with multiple updates or if you prefer the shorter ones. Anyway, so I had pretty much abandoned this alt after its primary use for the above drama, but while troubleshooting my primary alt I loaded this one again and saw a request for a follow-up a year later. Not sure if anyone else still cares, but just in case. I did in fact end up hitchhiking to Seattle in winter, almost 2000 miles, because I did not dare brave the more straightforward but far colder routes through Oklahoma, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, or NM, Utah, Idaho. So I ended up following the lower southern, far western coastal route, pretty much I-10 to I-5. And I guess I-5 means Interstate 5. Anyway, it took about 3.5 weeks, and with the exceptions of nearing a crisis of hypothermia in the California mountains along I-5 and the final leg where I was made the driver in a 2-vehicle caravan where the owner was pretty much a semi-functioning schizophrenic. I would use a more modern, less stigmatizing term, but there seems to be some division as to what that term will be in the West, was pretty uneventful. I got dropped off in downtown Seattle, registered at a mission, then found an organization where I could use their address to update my bank card info so I could have access to my final paycheck. The bank had frozen the account because it was being used across multiple states in rapid succession. Next, located a print shop that would make custom signs and had this sandwich board made. I bought a couple of removable business card holders to hold business cards when I could afford them. The sign maker gave me a great deal, but my funds were pretty low by then and donations, and stuck them on the sign. I got an account at the Seattle main library branch and started surfing for local jobs. Once I hit my daily 1.5 hour limit, I would hit the streets with the sandwich board and wander to the various tech company buildings and try to catch someone's attention. I did get some nibbles over a 2-month period, both online and via the sign, but frustratingly there was not any follow-up, though there were a lot of attaboys for taking the sandwich board route. I had been keeping my sister reassured / up to date, and I guess she had been passing on my efforts at the cooking job, and while I was in Seattle because I got a call out of the blue from my estranged father. One of the biggest suspicions I had about the lack of follow-up was not because I was homeless per se, but because I am completely self-taught and never really had the time / money to go to college or get certifications. A country mechanic, PC technician, if you will. She knew that, and I guess Dad was impressed enough by what I was trying to do that his offer was to come home and help care for him. In return he would pay for community college and or certifications plus a small stipend. So that is what I've been doing for the past almost 2 years, taking care of him, getting reacquainted, taking classes and certs as I can get the time to do so. He's almost 80 and needs a fair bit of care. Hopefully, I will reach a point where I am close to a shoe-in for a decent telecommuting job. I'm not looking for on-site work until after he has passed on, but there's no rush. Thanks for all your advice and encouragement. Life is looking much better these days. Quite frankly, that was a surprisingly wholesome ending, and I hope you enjoyed this long story. If you did, please make sure to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video to support me. Thank you so much in advance. If we could reach 1000 likes, that would be absolutely amazing. And the next one is titled, Fiancé calls needing me to transfer $500 to her bank account, legally cannot tell me why. What the F? There is no trust issue between us and $500 is a lot of money, so she's not spending it frivolously. She told me that the call was being recorded and that for legal reasons she could not tell me why she needed the money. What possible scenario would involve her needing money but being unable to tell any other person why she needs it? A person in the comments said, you say you trust her and you are sure she's not scamming you or lying to you. Okay, fine, but maybe she's being scammed herself and truly believes she's not legally allowed to tell you the reason. There is no legitimate legal reason she would not be permitted to tell you, so she's either lying or being misled. Another person said, I think this is the most likely outcome in regards to being scammed herself, and it really bugs me that people are jumping to point the finger at her as a scammer rather than a potential scam victim, which is really more likely. Never attribute to malice what is explainable by ignorance, etc. And guys, I'm curious, have you ever been the victim of a similar scam? Let us know in the comments. Next one is an update to the scam story. I would like to thank everyone for their responses to my question earlier. My fiancé is home and safe. She was involved in a quite complicated scam, as many of you had suspected. She got a call from 911, spoofed number from a person claiming to be an IRS agent. They stated that there was a warrant out for her arrest for evading taxes related to the colleges she has been to. All of this was information they had, as well as our home address. She was told that if she did not agree to settle her debt immediately, or if she ended the phone call, officers would be coming to place her under arrest. Furthermore, they told her before she called me that if she disclosed why she needed the money, she would have additional criminal charges. After getting money, she gave them codes for high-value credit cards purchased at the store. I know, it sounds really stupid in hindsight, the red flags were not nearly as obvious in context of the high-tension ordeal. Now, to figure out how I can get these charges reversed. Thanks again for everyone's input and concern. Edit, it was a traumatic learning experience for her and I, maybe we could try to keep things positive in here. Another person in the comments mentioned, you need to explain this to her and understand it yourself. The IRS and law enforcement in general, and anyone really, won't call you and say they need cash immediately. Explanation or not, the IRS and the police specifically don't call, they show up and either knock on the door or knock through the door, they show badges. The IRS phone call scam is very common around tax season. They apply pressure to hurry a decision and make it sound urgent. You and others, not just you OP, you are not alone in this at all, need to understand what they are asking for and what evidence they have on you. All that stuff they brought up is on Google, and hell, with LexisNexis I can get your cell phone provider and list of close relatives, addresses and their numbers. I'm curious guys, did you ever receive such a fake IRS phone call? Let us know in the comments. Next one is titled, Being Sued Personally by a Customer of the Store Where I Work. Says she slipped on the floor I was cleaning and she's injured. I am a cleaner at a supermarket. On January 16th I was cleaning a closed off section of the store. I was cleaning the floor so it was wet. Suddenly someone started shouting and a lady was saying that she slipped on the floor and fell and that she was in pain. I helped her get back on her feet, she walked alright. She was in the closed off section, so not supposed to be there, and there were signs. Then my manager came to talk to her, she was protesting but he said that the section was closed off, then they talked some more, but I don't know what was said because I went back to work. Last Thursday in the mail there was a letter, it is from a lawyer saying the lady was seriously injured and had to go to the hospital and she's asking for $24,000 or she will take me to court personally for her injuries, hospital costs and now she's disabled. At first I did not even know who she was, then I remembered. It did not look like she was badly injured when she was talking to my manager. I'm just a cleaner, I don't have that kind of money, I was just doing my job as told by my manager and following all the rules and the lady was not supposed to be where she was. Don't know how she got my name and address, we have name tags but with just our first name. I don't know why she is coming after me personally and not the store. What can I do? There's no way I can pay that kind of money. A person in the comments said, you are not being sued at this time, you have received a demand letter from an attorney. The store you work for should have liability insurance for exactly this sort of thing and you need to make them aware of what is going on. The insurance company has attorneys that will deal with it. As an employee performing normal duties, you should not be personally liable here. And the next one is an update to the janitor story. Thanks for your help with my question, you guys are good. It was indeed a scam, as some of you said. I took the letter to my manager and we went to the general manager's office. Seems like everyone, my manager, co-worker who was on the same shift, received the same letter. They said not to worry and go back to work, they will handle it. At most I will be asked to give a statement, but I won't be liable for anything. Then they pulled the security tapes. By luck they keep them for long and they were quite interesting. They even called me so we could have a good laugh. So this lady and her husband had been at our store and bought 2 full carts of groceries. They both were pushing a cart and for some reason the guy was not able to control his and it started taking speed. Parking lot has a slight slope and hit the woman. She fell hard on her ass, must have hurt. She had a hard time getting back on her feet, so maybe she was injured for real and that is where the medical bills come from. Anyway, she went back to their car and half an hour later back into the store. Then she literally flew herself to the ground when she passed the section I was cleaning. That was quite an artistic fall. Then of course she started yelling and everything. So yeah, a scam alright, but maybe the injuries were real. It sucks that she got injured, but it is really scummy to try and scam minimum wage workers who don't have money to throw around. I don't get why people do that. I must say I was quite scared before you people gave me advice. Thanks a lot for your help. And I gotta agree, that is probably the most scummy thing to do, to try and scam minimum wage workers. Like, how the hell do you even get such an idea? Have you guys ever been asked to pay outrageous sums of money for something you supposedly did? Let us know in the comments. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's content, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our amazing community. Furthermore, don't forget to go to r/ripe stories on Reddit to post your own stories if you want me to read them out in a video. I hope you have a fantastic day and I see you again tomorrow.